Hey, welcome back to the Secret Underground Lair. In the previous video, I'll put a link to it, should appear up there, maybe there, right there. You saw me put this through the Worktable Sawmill in the video titled Rough Oak and Wormy Maple. So this is the piece of the oak that went through, and I have put this through the surface planer, cut on both sides, so I have a nice piece of dressed lumber. This is going to be used for the back of another DemiLune table. So in fact, we're going to build two more DemiLune tables, one entirely out of this rough oak and another one made out of some of the poplar that'll be a paint grade table. So I'm going to paint one of these two tables that we're doing, and we'll stain the third table that we're building. Now I'm going to cut these just on the table saw into 1.5 by 1.5 inch leg blanks. I have two of these pieces of wood that I'll be cutting, so I'm going to have, but I'm only going to make 3 legs out of it. Anyway, hope you enjoy. Okay, first cut, as per usual, I have a bed rail stuck onto the side of this board here with a single screw. So I'll run it through. That'll give me a nice straight edge down here. Then I can turn the board around and start cutting off first a cleaning edge, a cleaning pass on this surface. Then I'm going to make some 1.5 inch cuts to get the leg down to a blank size. Here's an interesting little piece of wood. Let me bring you over and show you this. So I haven't come across this in oak before. I've seen this in pine, but certainly we had some sort of bug boring deep into that wood and leaving a trail there. So funny that the saw just happened to capture that right down the middle of that bore. Anyhow, this will probably be cut off on a taper anyway, so I'm not worried that that'll appear in the furniture when we're done. These legs will be tapered, so just make sure that we'll include that on an offcut. All right, I'm going to continue cutting these blanks, make them 1.5 inch square. What I'll be doing is moving the fence over just a little bit, currently 1.5, but I'm going to move it over so I can take a face cut off one of these, take a face cut and get rid of one of these rough sides, make it straight and true. And then I'll cut them to 1.5 inches through the table saw again. So I'll set you back up and you'll see me do those cuts. So there's two of the leg blanks. So I'll just take our third piece and get one more blank out of this. Okay, there we have our third leg blank. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut the legs to length 29 inches. And I want to get a nice square edge at the top. So the first cut is going to be just cutting a squaring this off here. Now that I have good 3 square ends, I'm going to put the pieces together and even clamp them. And then we'll measure down 29 inches and cut them off to length all at the same time, so I know they're all the same length. Alright, 3 legs cut to length. Now we can put them in the tapering jig and we'll get them tapered the way we want them. So you may remember this tapering jig. I have a line down this side where I can line up the leg. And now we can just put it into, measure down where I want the blade to be coming out, which is 5 inches. And we're going to hopefully, with this cut, remove all of this worm path that we've got here on this piece. Let's see what happens. Well, we just cleared it. You can see a little bit of the shadow left by that worm. So we just managed to clear it all out. And we came out right at the line. So I'm quite happy with the way that came out. So we'll flip the leg around. I'm going to do 180 degrees on this. And then we'll do the other sides. Now we're getting into the cuts where I need a little bit of a wedge put underneath. This should be the right angle. But I'm going to use another wedge like I did on the last legs. It's a little too thin and it goes down too far. Okay. There is a nicely tapered leg. We've got a beautiful square inch, or 1 square inch at the bottom. That turned out really well. And of course, we're up at 1.5 at the top. I like that little jig. Okay, so I'll do the next 2 legs. I won't bore you with the detail on that. And there are the 3 legs cut. Nicely tapered. I am happy with the result of that. We did get a little bit of worm stuff here, just a little bit, so that's going to require some filler. And but again, this is a painted table, so I'm not terribly worried about that. Yeah, overall it turned out pretty well. A couple little nail blemishes. This leg turned out very well. There's very little marking on it, just one little nail hole here. Other than that, it's a perfect leg. So this may be the front leg. These could be the 2 side legs. Some scorch marks from the saw. Oak, of course, is very hard. I did change the blade. This is actually a new blade that I put on here. And it's cutting pretty well, but the old blade really struggled. In fact, overheated the motor a couple times. Even with a brand new blade, cutting this oak, 2 inches thick, the number of passes that I did really got the motor quite hot. So good to give it a little rest. So I'm going to go get a bite of lunch. We'll come back and we'll start working on the top. Okay, got a new belt on the belt sander, but while I was in my drawer there, I thought, I should take a look at my replace my respirator cartridge. So on the inside, it's really nice and clean, the air that I'm getting in, but on the outside, this is just jammed full of crap. So it's doing a great job, but compared to what the new one looks like, kind of night and day. So happy to have made that breathe better, but glad to be wearing the respirator. That's what it's catching. So these work. So you can see I got a little racing stripe on the bottom of my little dust bag here. That's actually because the zipper broke. I thought I'd put a little bit of duct tape on there to try and capture that or close it off. The dust bag works fairly effectively when that's closed. It's capturing an awful lot of dust. So I'm just going to continue with that. I know it's not ideal, but it's better than nothing. I'm going to have to make a little adapter for this dust collector, for the belt sander rather, to go into the dust collection system, but for now, that'll work. Okay, that's done a very good job actually of evening it out. I'm going to flip it over and do the other side. Go through the same process and come back when that's done. All right, I've got that all sanded. That is a dusty job for sure. Glad to be wearing my respirator. So I'm just going to use some filler now and go over all these holes, just get them all filled in. And then we'll get into marking this top to make our round cut. Okay, we've got our piece all laid out, or filled in, all the holes filled. By the way, the paper that I was using in the belt sander here was 80 grit, not 60 grit as normally would. So it'll make sanding up a little bit better and easier when we move up to the 120 before primer. So now I'm going to mark out where I want the semicircle to be on this piece, and I'll probably take that to the bandsaw and cut it out. Okay, I've marked the circumference with the beam compass, and then I have a little template that I use to use on the bandsaw to cut that semicircle. I clamped it in place just by sliding it back like this, getting a couple clamps on, I've got a line that runs across the bottom of that template. You probably can't see it from here, but I have a line that runs there so I know where to put the tabletop. And then I have another mark here to mark the center, so I line that up with the center mark that I put on there when I used the beam compass. Then I used my little nail gun, just put 3 tacks in there to hold it in place. So I can take the clamps off now. And we're good to go. Set that on the bandsaw. So I'll set you up to take a look at that. All right, got the piece on the bandsaw, dust collector going. Let's make a cut. Just gonna drop this guard a little bit. Okay, with the top in place, I want to mark a line across here now where the face of that table is going to reside, and then we can mark where the legs are going to go. So being a 14-inch diameter table, or radius table, I'm going to make the inside edge of that face at 13.5. So there's our mark for where the inside face is going to be. I'll get a square, we'll get the center leg positioned. So our center leg is going to go on either side of that line. Now we want to figure out where the outside legs are going to be. Okay, just set the back on. This is the piece I intend to use for the back. It's actually 7/8 of an inch thick. So I made a line where that's going to be. Now, when I set the leg here, I can bring this corner of the back corner of the leg flush with that line, because I want to be able to drill and put a screw in from the back into the leg. So with this back edge of the leg on this line, I'm now putting the front face of the leg so that the corners of the leg touch the circle that we put on here for the inside face. So that being 1.5 inches, I want to go 3/4. I will mark the center of the leg. And the center of the leg is 2 inches from the back. So if I come over here and do 2 inches from the back to the intersection of that line, okay, I now have the location where these legs are going to sit, which means I can now start calculating what I want to do for these, the face pieces. In the last table we had 2 pieces that I joined together and then put them through the arcs to give them that curve. I'm going to do the same thing with this, but I have to get those pieces cut and joined. So, okay, so now I have a line here that represents where these 2 pieces will meet on both sides. So I'm going to cut 4 pieces that are going to be about that length, and they'll be trimmed to fit later. But let me go get some pieces and get them in place. All right, I got a piece of pine this time. It's the same shape as the oak that we milled up into legs, but this is pine. And I'm just going to cut this into a 4-inch, 4¼ inch strip plank. First, I'm going to take off this edge, getting a straight edge with the bed rail. Take the bed rail off, run it through the other side. And then I may also try and clean up one of the faces, but we'll get to that in a minute. That came out beautiful. Blade is can't get much closer to perpendicular than that, so. Well, interesting doing that. Discovered a little bit of character only a mother could love here. Fairly heavily risen, so we'll try and keep that on the inside. But now when I cut this and join these two pieces together, making that single cut, I have clean edges on both sides, so it'll work out much nicer. Okay, set this back up on the DemiLune table and figure out what the angle is going to be. So I've drawn a straight line from the center of this leg to the center of this join, and from the center of this join to the center of the outside leg. So our little pieces in the middle are going to meet here and here, which means this angle here is what I need to cut this piece to. So with my handy dandy protractor, I can see that that angle is going to be 72 degrees, which means I need to set the blade 18 degrees off 90. Okay, saw set for 18 degrees. Got the blade lined up so it'll cut through about the middle of that. Okay, so with a single cut, these two pieces will mate perfectly with each other. I did make a mistake on this one. I cut it a little too far down, and I may have captured this hole. Fortunately, it'll be on the inside. At least the bulk of the ugliness will be on the inside. But next, we'll cut some splines in here and join these pieces together and clamp them. Last time I made a table, I made the splines too far up, so I'm going to make sure that the splines are pretty low down on the inside of this edge. All right, I've got the face piece set up in a little jig here, so it's held up tight against a fence, this little fence on the miter. I got a stop block here so that it can't go any farther. It's flush on the table, clamped in place, and at the appropriate place where I want to make that miter, or that slot for the spline. And I'll just do that 3 more times. Made another mistake. I got this on the outside, meant to get it on the inside. Yeah. Some days you just can't win everything. So those line up just exactly the way I want them to. Now I just need to cut a little spline. I happen to have some oak lying around. Gee, I wonder where that came from. All right, we got our splines ready to go. Our second piece here, splines ready here. So we'll slobber on some glue and drive the splines in. I made this splines a snug fit, not a jam fit, but it's gonna be close enough, I think. See, my spline deteriorates there as I get it further in. It's a tight fit, but I'm okay. That's all going to be sanded off and be wonderful. I'm going to spline in this side. You may notice I slid a little wedge underneath this side here. That's because with the spline sticking out a little bit on the far side, which is now the bottom, as I apply pressure here, there'd be a tendency for this to split apart. So by putting that wedge there, it'll drive these together, is my theory. And it is driving them together. Whoops, I'm crazy about it, but I gotta be happy. So I guess I made that fit a little too snug. Might do something to loosen up on the next one, but I did get a nice tight fit through here. You can see glue squeeze out at the face, which is what I want. Okay, well, we'll let that set up. We'll see how it behaves. Again, this piece is not going to be undergoing any stress or anything, so it just needs to hold together while we machine it, fundamentally. Putting these in here, I'm thinking maybe I should have used my dovetails again. Maybe on the next table I'll do that. Use dovetail joinery here. Okay, with that done, I'm going to call that a video. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Tomorrow we'll be back and setting up the arcs to cut these into the semicircle that we want. See you on the next one.